The pods are officially open.
It's hard to understand how someone could be in love with two people. And I honestly, I really don't care what either of them look like. You are so amazing.
Are you breaking up with me?
It's okay.
I chose Irina.
I did not expect the mental and emotional kind of turmoil that you experience when you're living with other girls that are dating who you're dating.
My connections are Marshall, and my other connection is with Josh. I love them both. Marshall's sensitive, and Josh is like a smack talker. Josh is the same level as me.
When I was watching this season of Love is Blind, I was struck by not only the love triangles, but a specific pattern within the love triangles. And that's this kind of compartmentalized thinking that the contestants are involved in. Like, the passion and the drama and the heat is with one person in the triangle, and then there's the safety and the comfort and the soul connection with another person. And they all seem to end up with the safe choice to avoid past mistakes.
Physically, Marshall, if I would have saw him, I probably would have swiped. I've always gone for over 6'5", tatted on both sides, tatted on the neck. And Marshall is opposite of that.
And this specific toxic pattern within the love triangle has a long history on the show. It started with Jessica on season 1, and I think the producers of Netflix figured out, okay, this is what gets the people talking. And then it really grew on season 2, where you had the triangle of Mallory, Jared, and Ayana, and there was a triangle of Shane, Shayna, and Natalie. And on season 3, we had Bartiz stuck between Nancy and Raven, and all of them are stuck in this kind of compartmentalized way of thinking, where the safety is in one area and the sex and the heat and the passion is in one area. And literally the only person in the history of Love is Blind that ended up choosing well in the love triangle dynamic is Barnett on season 1, who knew better than staying with Jessica. But why do people end up in this compartmentalized kind of thinking? Because I think it's rooted in trauma. And what is compartmentalization? It's a form of psychological defense mechanism in which conflicting thoughts are kept separate in the mind. And you do that to avoid anxiety from arising due to past trauma coming up and bubbling up. It's like you keep the negative thoughts separate and the positive thoughts separate. And nowhere is it more obvious than in the case of Zach, who literally chose Irina because Bliss was actually triggering his past trauma and he didn't want to deal with it. But we're gonna get into that later. Initially, when I was watching this season, I wanted to make a video about the psychology of mean girls, specifically those two hyenas, Micah and Irina, because girl, the fuck is wrong with these two? But I remember I paused Netflix to go get coffee or something, and you know that summary of the episode that comes up when you pause the episode? It was kind of teasing a love triangle coming up, and I thought, oh god, the producers and the makers of Love is Blind are very hyper aware now of this love triangle dynamic on the show and the competition and how intoxicating and captivating it is for us, the viewers.
I literally have no idea what I'm doing.
And you can tell by the amount of time that was spent in the living quarters as opposed to the pods, the amount of times that in the first few episodes that the show kept going to the men's living quarters and women's living quarters. I've never seen it before on previous seasons. Yeah, literally everybody on this season is part of a triangle, with the exception of Tiffany and Brett. You have Kwame in the middle of Chelsea and Micah, and then Micah in the middle of Paul and Kwame, and then Paul in the middle of Micah and Amber. And I was watching, I was like, damn, this Micah girl is part of every triangle on the show. And then there's her best friend Irina, who's part of another triangle with Zach and Bliss. And also, they love the triangles on this season so much that there was even another triangle formed after the pods when they went to Mexico, where Irina is chasing after the man of her best friend Micah while Zach is watching. My god. I mean, I'm not a prude, but I was like, this is disgraceful. Have you no shame, girl? Yeah, these two, Micah and Irina, my god, they are trash. It reminds me of this girl, Nicole Davies, here on YouTube, who reviews the show. I love how she goes, they're going where? In the bin. I love her videos. But yeah, these two girls definitely belong in the bin. Yeah, there was even one point where that Jackie girl was crying after leaving Josh for Marshall. And literally they're like cackling and laughing.
I just feel so bad that I hurt him.
It's crazy.
But anyway, back to the compartmentalization. As always, guys, the subject that I pick, there's bias, of course, because I pick something where I'm projecting my own stuff. And lately, in the last few years, as I'm kind of trying to seek healthy relationships and understand why I've been avoiding them my whole life, I realized that I myself have been involved in this kind of compartmentalized thinking, where the sex and the fun is with one person, and then there's the safety and the best friend and the companionship with another person. And only now did I start to notice that, my God, there's something unhealthy about this. So that's why I was picking up on that in the show. Because as always, you guys, I project, you project, my mother projects, your mother projects, our kindergarten teacher projects. That's what we do, human beings. We see life through the prism of our own experience. And helping me this week is none other than Iyanla Vincent, who is here to give advice to those stuck in the love triangle, especially people like Zach, who there's hope for someone like Zach, and she really wants to help him out. So
Recently, I was away from my email for 2.5 weeks. When I left my email, I had 113 unopened emails. When I came back, I had 6,784 emails from people asking me questions about how to fix their lives. Listen, never ask anybody. Your real self knows the truth. No matter what mask or what face you wear in the world, your real self knows the truth.
hey you guys, it's me in denial. Broadcasting from Dubai still. There's one more week. Next video is gonna be uploaded from Amsterdam. As I always say, I'm in denial, so you, Zach, can wake up. So this week we're talking about compartmentalization, or the dangers of compartmentalized thinking that is involved in these kind of love triangles, specifically 3 love triangles on the show. And not only are we gonna do a deep dive into those, we're gonna go into the why, the childhood, the PTSD, the trauma, honey, and all that good stuff, specifically Zach. And by the way, I've done some snooping and I found his sister posted something on Facebook about their mother, but we're gonna get into that, so stick around. So this dangerous form of compartmentalized thinking, like any coping mechanism, it starts off as a stress management tool where you're literally putting away the stressful thoughts in a place, in a compartment in your brain where you can't think about it. But like all bad habits, it takes over and it actually blocks emotional growth. And an extreme example of this compartmentalized kind of thinking is if you're living with an abusive partner, but you're living a very luxurious, rich life. It's like you put the thought that they're abusive away and you just focus on the great life that they're giving you. You're basically shoving that thought away in another part of your mind. But that's an extreme example, of course. But what happens with the couples on Love is Blind, the way the compartmentalized thinking shows up in their lives is that they naively think that because in the past their relationships have failed, and they assume that those relationships failed because there was a lot of passion and love in them, they're like, okay, so why don't I try it differently this time? Because clearly it didn't work the first time. So the heat and the passion and the love is what caused the problems.
Experiment starts by dating a ton of different people that you never would have normally spoken to.
But this is dangerous because it prevents you from being honest with yourself and living an authentic life, and it actually forces you to put up with situations that are toxic to you. And a good example of that is Jackie and Marshall when they were in Mexico after they met, and they were having a great day out on town, having drinks, and then when they get back to the apartment, she locks herself in the bathroom. She starts like bawling and crying, and because she didn't want to face him. She was making up all sorts of excuses about the past and her family, being very vague just to avoid talking to him. And it really reminded me of something that I see on this YouTube channel called Behavior Panel, where you have these interrogation experts and they analyze usually criminals and people on trial, but they basically look for signs of deception. And they always point out this thing that people who are avoiding being confronted with the truth do, which is they start crying. Because when you start crying and bawling and hide, basically you're telling the other person, don't ask me any more questions. Because how many of us will confront someone who's crying? And what she does here, because she's being very vague, she doesn't tell him why she's pissed off, but she just hides in the bathroom. Because she knows this guy is not the guy for her. Girl.
I go back to that shit, man.
Like, she's not even interested in the guy. And even when they were out for drinks, like in Mexico, she did this thing when they were cheering. She's like, cheers to me and only me. And then she remembered that he's there.
Cheers to me and only me. And you.
I'll take
Cheers
that.
to
Cheers to us.
And another example of this kind of pushing away negative thoughts into a compartment in your brain, something that Kwame does when he's trying to convince himself that Chelsea is the right one for him after Micah dumped him. He's telling this guy in the living quarters that, she's the one for me. And even that guy is like, dude, Chelsea?
Chelsea has gone from, and I can't believe it myself.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm very shocked at how into this girl I am. Chelsea? Chelsea!
And there is some serious toxicity going on in Kwame's choice of Chelsea and why he loves her. Like, he literally tells her at one point,
And what I love about you is your constant reassurance about how you feel about me.
He's literally telling her that what I love about you is how much you love me, how sure you are of me. But it makes sense why Kwame would find someone like Chelsea to do that too, because Chelsea's a giver. You can tell she was going around giving massages for girls in the women's living quarters. You can tell this girl has a lot of love to give and she wants to take care of people.
Damn, Chelsea.
Take care of my man every day. I tell him that.
Damn, Chelsea.
And Chelsea, so far at least in the first 5 episodes, because who knows what she's gonna do later, so far she is really pushing away the negative thought that he's not into her. And she's, even though the truth is staring her in the face, like there were 2 examples. One time where she told him, I love you very much, and he doesn't respond.
I love you so much.
I'd run through the desert.
And another time where she tells him, you know, we expected it to be good, but not this good, like we. And he's like,
I think we both expected it to be good, but do we expect it to be this good? I don't know.
Crickets, honey, crickets. Not only does he not respond, he doesn't even look at her. But you know, Chelsea is actually my favorite thing about Chelsea. Well, Chelsea's my favorite on the show so far because she's so sure of what she wants and she's just so open and she looks at him and tells him, you're my man and I want no one else. And there's something so, I'm jealous of that, like how there's a lot of strength in being that vulnerable. But she is picking the wrong man or she's not seeing the truth. And Iyanla's here to tell her a couple of words.
A spiritual code of conduct says that you have to ask for what you want and do not settle for something because it's all you think you can have or because it's what's available. If you want it single, don't settle for it if it's married.
And Chelsea truly is pushing that painful truth away to somewhere where she can't look at it because she knows deep down inside that if this marriage is going to continue, she's always going to lead it.
I'm so grateful that you led the way that you did.
Yeah, but I can't lead our entire marriage. Like,
and even there was one moment when they were in Mexico before they met the other people where she was all about him. And he's starting to talk about, as he gets nervous about, you know, the upcoming meeting with Micah. He's nervous about that and he's saying, oh, I don't care about her. He so fucking cares, girl. And even at that moment where the doubts are creeping into him, she still brings him back.
I don't care about anybody else here.
Yeah, me neither. You're all I've ever wanted, you know?
Damn. That was beautiful.
And the same goes for Zach, who deep down inside, even though he chose Irina for God knows why, I mean, that girl, oof, we're gonna get into her. But deep down inside, he always knew that she plays mind games.
She's a little immature and she plays like games, you know, like girl games to try to win a man.
Yet he convinces himself that she has his back.
With Irina, it's like, this woman would have my back at every step of the way.
She doesn't have your back, honey. She talks behind your back.
I've noticed that like every time he does like touch me, I get like a major itch.
And even though this girl Irina and Micah are part of love triangles, they don't do any kind of compartmentalized thinking because they don't care enough to push away negative thoughts. They're not even here to meet guys. They're just here to experience some stuff and come back to the room and gossip about it together. Even after Micah dumps Kwame and he's crying, she comes back to the room and laughs about it with Irina.
I told myself I'd never lose.
That's kind of fucked up, isn't it? I can't be the only one that thinks that.
But even people like Micah with very little empathy, deep down inside, they know what's up. Like that part where she says, if no one likes my insides, I'm gonna be pissed.
I think what makes me nervous is having to really rely on what's internal. Yeah, if no one likes my insides, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, that shit was funny, I'll give her that. And like all things funny, it's rooted in truth. Because your insides are rotten, honey. Now let's talk about Jackie and her love triangle.
I guess I have to break up with my other boyfriends now.
You better kick them motherfuckers to the curb.
I mean, I can't believe she dumped Josh. He's so hot and cute. And it's very funny. I watched a post-show interview that they did with Extra where Jackie is talking about her choice and comparing the guys.
I chose Marshall because I felt like we talked a lot more about our emotions. When I was talking with Josh, it was like DJ Khaled and memes, and that's like my buddy, that's my bestie, you know?
Which is Actually, the reason why you should be with someone who's like your bestie, that you also find attractive. Because Jackie herself told us that she has a history of liking the tatted guys, the tall, the masculine, the tough, but those kind of relationships always ended up with heartache for her. So she pushed that away. Like, she put it in a compartment where, okay, passionate relationships with guys that I'm attracted to cause trouble. So let's put that away. Let's pick another guy. Even though this Marshall guy is, for me personally, he's a walking red flag right from the beginning, where he speaks in platitudes all the time. He was talking to Brett in the first episode.
You gotta take that leap. Love hurts. Take the leap, bro. Take the leap.
I have been bullied by my emotions and bullied for my emotions.
I was bullied by my emotions and for my emotions. Some random line that he probably rehearsed a million times before coming on the show. And at one point when he was crying in the pods about something in his childhood, there were no tears.
Oh, honey.
He was just making the sounds so she could hear them, but there were literally no tears as he was wiping his face. To me, he's just so fake. Even that point where he realized that he's in competition with this guy Josh, when Jackie told him when they were in the pods, and he got so angry, like he wanted to go like hurt Josh, and he was like walking out of the pods like being angry. Like, even that walk was fake. You're not Denzel Washington in Training Day, girl. Calm down. Something about this guy Marshall, these people who are just overtly nice, like a Bill Cosby or even like a Will Smith. Those people pleasers that are always, doing and saying the right thing. You can tell underneath it all, they're gonna... And the reason why he reminds me of Will Smith, it's this weird asexuality. Even though he's handsome, just like Will Smith. I mean, Will Smith is a very handsome man, big, looks really gorgeous. But I find him so asexual. I can't think of him having sex. Like, I feel like he's Ken down there. Like, there's nothing. I don't know how to put it into words, but Tiffany really called it. The first thing she said when she met him in Mexico.
Marshall definitely reminds me of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith.
And at one point he goes like, Jackie, I'm in love with you, girl.
Jackie, I am in love with you, girl.
It reminded me of Jared from season 2 at the altar when he said I do to Ayana.
I do.
Extra.
Even Ayana was like, girl, calm down. And all these might be silly red flags, or probably not even red flags for some people. Maybe I'm just being biased or projecting or being stupid and trying to be funny. But there is one very serious red flag when the competition with Josh came up.
He's not walking out of here with you. That's all I know and that's all I care about.
Not that the only thing I care about is being with you or making each other happy, or the only thing he cares about is not her or him. It's just beating this guy in the competition for Jackie. But still in the pods, I think Jackie's falling for it because she's probably drawing a picture of this, nice guy who's gonna take care of her, not gonna cause her any heartache. But when she meets him in person, she knows what's up. She immediately looks away. And when they kiss, she kisses, very quickly with zero passion. And after the reveal, when they're heading back to their separate quarters, and he does this dance, which he thinks is cute, and she's going like, you better tell them. Ugh. He's so fake, and she's being fake.
Let me see how it moves. Okay. You better work. You better let them know. I'm not worried about you at all. I'm really not. I'm worried about me. And it could be like a flip of a switch. And I can go back to how I used to be.
Translation, it's not you, it's me. And I'm gonna dump you later.
You're something that I need. Obviously that I want too.
Yeah, obviously you really want him. Girl. And that's why she ended up crying later after those drinks in Mexico when they came back to the hotel room and her whole mood was flipped. And she was being very vague, something about her past.
Being back in the house after experiencing the city with my baby, I'm in my emotions. I'm thinking about home, I'm thinking about my people, I'm thinking about work. A real commitment to me is loving my family, even though my family ain't perfect.
Huh? What does that have to do with anything? And also, why complicate things? Just say the truth. As Iyanla always says, call a thing a thing. And speaking of Iyanla...
If you want it easy, don't make it hard. And if you want it hard, then you gotta work with it if it's not.
But why do people do that? Why do they get in this compartmentalized kind of thinking? Why do they push negative thoughts away? We're doing that to avoid experiencing the symptoms of PTSD that we're pushing down along with those negative thoughts. Because those negative thoughts are based on things we experienced in the past. And we don't want to relive those, so we push them down. Like in the case of Jackie, for example, she keeps it vague. Like there's something in her history, something maybe with past relationships, something with her family. She doesn't tell us. So far, she hasn't told us. But there is something that she's pushing away. But that truth always comes to the surface. Something will trigger it sooner or later. But on second thought, maybe some people can go through their whole life avoiding the negative thoughts and pushing away past trauma and not dealing with it. But since we're talking about people on the show, people who have brought themselves to this kind of experience that tests you right in front of millions of people, I think that happens because people like that, they want to heal. Deep down inside, even if it's subconscious, you are trying to trigger yourself.
Tell me. Keep it real.
But while those things in need of healing were vague in the case of Jackie, in the case of Zach, they were definitely not vague.
So my mother was a single mom, and my mother was a stripper. I've had people in the past that I was in love with, and their family judged me because of how I was raised.
My dad, he does not like any of my exes at all. You know?
Why did he think that? Like, what about them did he not like?
They just weren't good enough.
So Zach immediately got nervous because of his past trauma of being judged for his upbringing.
I've had that happen to me before.
Yeah.
Where someone's family would judge me because of how I grew up.
It worries me that you're worried about acceptance.
And Bliss immediately called it out in a very astute kind of way where she's like, this is about acceptance for you. Because the truth of the matter is that Zach has not made peace with the fact that his mother was a stripper. Because if you've made peace with something like that, it doesn't really matter what anybody thinks. So to avoid how much the relationship with Bliss was triggering him, he went to Irina. And Bliss called him out. She was like, if you pick Irina, you're probably a bad judge of character.
This is a test for me too. Does Zach have good judgment? Can I trust, your ability to truly judge someone?
And he is a bad judge of character. I mean, the fact that he picked Irina, the fact that he defends criminals for a living, I mean, girl, this guy needs to go back to the drawing board. He needs to reevaluate everything. Go back to the very beginning. To the time when dinosaurs were around. Honey, no.
I knew that there was something special about you. And I've seen the woman that you are at the core.
Yeah, just like her friend Micah, she too has a rotten core. There's a dead rat living inside. And speaking of Irina, let's, I don't know if cut her some slack, but even the biggest of bullies, their behavior is rooted in something. And she said early on that she's very insecure about her acne.
I think I'm a bombshell, but when I was younger, I had really, really bad acne, really, really bad acne.
And that's why actually she's always showing off her boobs. At every given opportunity, when they start meeting in person in Mexico, her outfits are so revealing. It's look here, not here. Even though she doesn't have acne anymore, and she's actually so insecure about the way she looks that even Zach, who was clearly attracted to her, told her that she looks like Megan Fox, she gave him the middle finger because she actually doesn't believe it.
You kind of look like Megan Fox. I don't know, has anyone ever told you that?
And there was one vulnerable moment, a fleeting moment where you can tell, okay, this is why this girl behaves that way. When he told her about that someone hurt you.
I think that if someone hurts you, you will hurt them back.
And she starts crying in the pause, but it's so brief. I think this girl has a long way to go before she can open up and become vulnerable about her pain. And until then, she's gonna have to do some serious damage. And at one point, Zach, when they were still in the pods, he calls her vicious, which she feels proud of. She laughs. But then immediately she's like, I can't believe you just called me vicious. I can't believe that. Girl, believe it.
I think one concern I have is I think you're a little bit more vicious than I am.
If you think something about me is vicious, like you said, I cannot believe you said that to me because it's a little shocking.
And just like Micah, she just loves being chased. She doesn't feel she's good enough, so she just needs to get as many guys to run after her. It's not about them, it's just about being chased. And there was one point in Mexico when Zach was when he was getting close to kind of calling it quits, when he was like, I'm not gonna chase after you. She's like, you're not?
I'm not gonna chase after you.
You're not?
But Zach, with his compartmentalized thinking and pushing, the negative thoughts away, he's so skilled at that. That's how he lasted so long when at every turn, Irina was not into him. At some point when they were in bed together, of course, far away from each other, when she was telling him, usually with guys, I'm all over them. I don't have a problem having physical contact. But with you, I mean, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. And she's like, I don't know why it's taking so long to get attracted to you. And he's like, oh, you're in your head.
I think you're in your head. I think
Yeah,
you're
I think
thinking
that's true.
about what's gonna happen when we get to the altar.
No, girl, she's not in her head. She's just not into you. But the truth of her not being into him was right there from the beginning. Like after the proposal at the reveal, when he tried to kiss her and she was like, oh, a hug for now.
Just a hug for now.
But in order for someone like Zach or any of us to see the truth, we have to do the work.
When I say do the work, I'm saying be with yourself for a minute. Sit down, shut up, and listen. Go to the places that scare you. Go to the places where you hurt and understand what the hurt is and where it came from and what you need to do to anesthetize it.
So basically the work, as always, is sitting with yourself and letting yourself feel all the stuff that hurt. Not pushing them away in little compartments in your brain, but actually sitting with them. Side note, Zach's sister recently posted on a Facebook group pictures of their mother, who was a stripper, that died. There was something so haunting and touching, and I mean, I love Zach, and I really think he's the only one that has a chance to kind of, yeah, we'll get into it at the end of the video. Now let's move on to Kwame. While it's not very clear what his past trauma is, it's not as clear as Zach, but there seems to be some past trauma about being rejected by women for his skin color.
I think I'm a really good person. And I couldn't pick up my girlfriend to go to prom because I'm black. So I always feel this need to impress.
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hey, what's your name?
My name is Micah. What's yours?
Wow, Micah, I love that. My name is Kwame. I actually was going to use the name Alex instead because I just feel like Kwame just like puts me in this very specific area.
And that's what makes him run after validation so hard, especially from women who are not willing to give it to him.
Is it that she validates you more than I do?
Yes.
He's basically like asking me like he really wants validation from me, but I'm like not willing to give it to him.
And an early example of that is when they were still in the pods and he didn't propose to Micah, but just he was hinting. He was telling her, I really want to propose. And she just didn't respond. Her jaw dropped to the floor. And that should have been pretty clear.
I want to propose earlier.
But he keeps going after that validation.
I'm very, very set on Micah, but I really, really want validation from her.
I don't get it. Did mommy leave you, or what the hell is happening, girl?
I feel so strongly about you as a person, but I feel like we should explore other connections.
But after Micah dumps him in this very manipulative way where she tells him he's her favorite person, but they should still see other people, he finally, I don't want to say he gets the hint because she tells him, let's see other people. So he's forced to get the hint. So he goes to Chelsea and he does a proposal that lasts for like 2 hours before he gets to the point. By the way, he loves talking and performing for the camera, which I do too, obviously. Like, did you see that part where he sings to her?
Mommy, my heart flutters, dude.
We're gonna make a song right now.
Okay.
All right, so we'll call this one,
Second choice, Leftovers.
We'll call it Real Thing.
Sure, the real thing. It's very real. What you and Chelsea have is very real. As real as my hair, girl. Carry on. Let's hear it. Let's hear the real thing.
Start with me. I just want the real thing. I just want the real thing.
Stop. This is not American Idol, honey. And he's always auditioning for something. Even that, did you see that rant about the pants?
The funny thing about what I'm wearing today, right, is that I always wear black jeans all the time. And they're my thing. Mm-hmm. And then this morning I woke up and I put on a pair of my light tan khakis and I looked in the mirror, I was like, damn, you know what, that looks good.
Are the beige pants metaphor for girls that you're not attracted to? Is that supposed to be a compliment that now you're going for beige pants? I guess I'm going for you now and it looks good. He's also patting himself on the back while doing that. Like before he starts that speech about the pants, he's like, and speaking of performing and singing, did you see the part where Zach started to sing?
I found myself a Blarney Stone. Irina, you take my blues away.
Sit down, shut up.
But didn't you love the part where Zach finally broke it off?
If you don't find me physically attractive, if I'm not your type, then I don't think we should go forward any further.
And there was this one interview where I saw with Zach on post-show on like Extra, I saw it online, where he was just full beard, reminded me a little bit of Cole.
I don't know what's been shown or what you see, but there were some fears.
I don't know, something about these guys that get really traumatized by their partners on the show. They go away and they just, I don't know, they have almost like a religious experience where they go into hibernation. They need to, I don't know, they need this beard to hide from the world, or like, I don't know what, but this guy is definitely seeing things differently. And I'm very curious what he's gonna think when he watches himself on the show. Because I do think there is hope for someone like Zach. Which brings us to the cure. Basically, you cannot change anything that you're not aware of. So the first step is to start noticing the patterns. And therapy is really helpful with that because it helps you spot the blind spots. And if for some reason therapy is not accessible to you or you can't afford it, start journaling and reading them back, because you'll start to see how your brain thinks when you have it on paper. And maybe talk to someone, a friend or someone close who's wise, whose experiences in life mirror where you want to be. Take their advice. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. This brings us to the end of the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week from Amsterdam.